Brokaw 209 here, and yeah, we're pheasant hunting. I'm gonna tell you right now, it ain't been good. Fucking man, walked long ways. That's about 80 acres, and we pretty much split it going down this trail here. It's windy, man. They got wind gusts. Man, I say they're at least 20-25 miles an hour, and these birds are taking off quick. There's really nothing we can do but hope for the best. We had one come out right here by these trees. Best shot of the day. We missed. I think we're going to the 3-inch just for a little bit more oomph. 4-shot instead of the 6-shot. Maybe it won't be as bad, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it is pretty windy, man. That cold front's gonna be moving in tonight. Yeah. I'll come back here in a little bit because I gotta warm my hands up. Brokaw 209 here. Please excuse if you can hear the heat. It is Northwest Indiana in the middle or the beginning of December now, as I'm filming this video. So the pheasant hunt, as you can see in the beginning, conditions were harsh. It's like when you're a little kid and your parents put all this food in front of you and they tell you to try it to see if you like it. Well, that's kind of how hunting is. You got to try these certain experiences to see if you like it and see if you want to do it. Some people hunt big game. Some people hunt small game. Some people do both. Some do bird hunting. Some do rabbit hunting. Some people don't like bird hunting. Some people don't like rabbit hunting. And some people don't like deer hunting. They like to shoot moose, elk, and other things that are challenging in life. This was an experience that I've never done before. So, you know, I got a taste of it. You know, I researched this quite a bit. Me, Sean the researcher, and his dad watched videos on this. I've watched videos on this. I've gotten some advice from people that had just gotten back from pheasant hunting and tried to apply that to what we experienced that day. And I'm going to tell you, it was exhilarating in some forms and fashions, but it's very disappointing in others. This is a property you have to be drawn for. Here in my area, again, I don't know where you're from, but here in my area, in Northwest Indiana, to shoot game bird, you either have to be in a private place or you have to be drawn to do it. There's no like set places where you can go on public land and be like, well, we can go and we can shoot birds here. You have to be drawn for these things from the DNR. They draw somebody's name. Sometimes you get to take a friend and you go out there and you do these certain draws like turkey hunts, duck hunting, things like that. Unless you live on private land or a lot of, or you know somebody that has this land that's privately owned, and you go there and you have those experiences. This is a experiment, okay? This is a government experiment, and the DNR is filled in on it too, where they had taken pieces of land and charted it out to try and get pheasant to live here, to live in this environment. Northwest Indiana isn't for anybody. We have sometimes really hot summers, sometimes really mild summers. We can have really harsh winters, talking, 6-7 feet of snow, or we can have some mild weather, like we've had this winter. It's a crapshoot when you live by a great lake. Sometimes you get that lake effect snow, and it's crippling. So some of these birds will not survive it. So they're trying to experiment on how to bring pheasant back to this area and make it plentiful, which I'm all for. But if worse comes to worse, I'd really not like to see, the money that I put into hunting for buying tags or, things that the DNR does to raise money. I'd rather not see that money go to these projects unless they're successful. Okay, let's just be honest here. It's the government And the government can be the government, which is wasteful spending. But I'd like to take a chance on this. I'd like to see these birds kind of get acclimated to the surrounding area and trying to hold on for the winter. My guess is it's a possibility. Now again, this is 80 acres of an experimental project that the federal government and the Fish and Wildlife researchers are trying to get these birds acclimated to live in this area. Is it going to work? I don't know. I think this is either the first or second time. I'd have to ask Sean, the researcher. Maybe they might watch this video, but not a lot of people have hunted this area. Basically, it's been stagnant for a while. So they put these birds out there. They give them an environment to live in. And again, you're in the middle of nowhere. All there is fields there. There's farms where they go and dump their corn, and the people live, miles away, and they go there, and that's their job as farmers. There's not a whole lot of people that live out here. They just work out there, and they go back home wherever they're from in this area. It's about, from my house, it's almost like 2 hours away, so they had to kind of squirm over and pick me up, and then we went down there in that area. And I'm going to tell you, man, it's a very humbling experience, first of all, but it's very cool that Sean, the researcher's dad, got picked to do this, because not many people get picked to do this. This is pretty much untouched land. We were the only ones that were allowed on this property for the day. If anybody else was there, we were supposed to contact the DNR. I don't know how. We're in the middle of nowhere, and phone service is limited. But we were here. They were supposed to tell them, whoever it was, that these people aren't allowed there. We're the only ones to be there, and they'd have to come there and handle it. We never saw any kind of DNR people. They said expect an interaction or two, maybe, with the people that are preserving this land to have these pheasant thrive, which is cool. It's a cool experience, and I was proud to be, I guess, the guinea pig. This is how the channel goes. We're always the guinea pig for stuff sometimes. So when we got there, even before we got there, we left my house, and it was windy. It's always windy here. It's always windy here. And I was like, man, I hope we were all saying, we were kind of getting ready, throwing my stuff in the car, breaking out strategies on how to do this. And we were like, man, hopefully it's not like this, a couple hours away. When we pulled up there, folks, oh man, it was worse. It was worse than how it was here. I'm telling you, it had to have been 35-mile-an-hour winds. So at some points, probably 40. I mean, at one point, the wind was kind of knocking me over. I was kind of losing balance on when I was on portions of this property. The wind was so strong, and that presented one of the biggest challenges. The terrain there. A lot of people will be like, well, why didn't you have a dog? Why didn't you have this? Why didn't you have that? I'm going to tell you, I don't think a dog could have made it through this stuff that we walk through. I'm talking about, grasses that were up to your chest, mud pits, water, all kinds of sticker bushes, you name it. This area had this kind of vegetation. We were walking this one spot, and because when we first walked out there, we kicked a bird up. We took a pop shot at it, and it was so windy. It's almost like these birds knew to get up into the wind. If they had to get off the ground, to get up in the wind, and the wind's going to take them. Because when this bird got up, it just glided. It glided all, like half that property. And you ain't running after this bird, I'm telling you, in these conditions. So, I mean, there's grasses up to your chest. There's little trees. There's little bushes. I mean, there's no movement. Like, I was watching stuff on YouTube and other social media platforms, and these guys are kind of like walking fields with a little bit of brush. This wasn't a little bit of brush, and I'll roll some footage in here. I'm talking full blown like grasses everywhere, and I think that was one, if not the biggest challenge. Was even if you had a dog in there, there's a big, like, I don't know, like a pond type of thing, a huge big old pond in there, and everything around it was mud. Sean, the researcher's dad, came through there, and he tried to spook that bird back out so we can get a shot. And he told us to stay on the outside of this area. Maybe the bird will come up. He almost lost his boots. That's how he sunk pretty deep in there. So that's why I'm saying, even with a dog, I mean, you'd have to go in there and retrieve your dog and pull him out of the mud. I mean, it was that harsh of an environment. Was there plenty of cover for these birds? Oh man, I'm telling you, once these birds, flew away and they got down, there's no way that you could walk by them, and they could just sit there and hang out underneath the grasses. I mean, we picked up grass at one point, and it was like there was just holes everywhere. I mean, you twist ankles in there. There was just a lot of hiding spots in there throughout this whole property. And it was like, at times, it was just hard to navigate for me anyways. The other guys, they were getting worn out too. Because, I mean, you're like almost stepping like this, like over, I mean, grasses. You're over trees. You're walking through things that's over your head. Like, I went through this one corridor, and I'm like, how am I supposed to get my gun up in all these trees? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this is going to be impossible. If I shoot at a bird, I'm taking my shot's hitting trees, so then I'm going to be limited in the shot that I put in the air to try and bring one of these birds down. I've never done this before, okay? So, I mean, you could throw that stuff in the comments of being inexperienced, but again, there's only one way to get experience, and it's to go do stuff for the first time to gain that experience, okay? And again, Sean, the researcher, and his dad are pretty knowledgeable in shooting small game and shooting doves. Sean just came off dove hunts this past year from down south. He's got more knowledge than me on how to take birds out of the sky. I wasn't a huge bird hunter. I didn't do that throughout the huge course of my life. I always hunted deer and small game, squirrels and all that jazz. This is a whole different element that I'm experiencing here. So even then we were kicking birds up, and I don't know how they missed, and they were really dumbfounded too. And it had to come down to the conditions. The wind conditions and the weather conditions were horrible. I wish we would have went today, because there's little to no wind today. It was just really cold. It was like 29 degrees, 30 degrees. It felt like the wind would cut you like a knife. That's how cold it was. On top of it, it felt like it was 12 degrees. So it wasn't very favorable for the temperature as well. And then the wind just increased those odds of these birds. Once they got up in the air, they were gone. They were floating. Like, they didn't even really flap their wings. They got up in the air, and the wind took them, and they just glided onto the other side of the property. I mean, we tried a lot of different strategies, even to the point of going back to the car a couple of times, warming up and eating a sandwich or two, and letting them kind of calm down. This is probably the first interaction they've had with humans for some time. So they really don't know what's going on. Even so, there's deer in there too. I mean, we saw a lot of big animals, man. We saw a lot of big deer. Like, man, hopefully people are hunting this area. That 12-point buck was pretty huge, the doe ran right out in front of me in one spot, and I was like, holy cow! I got my gun up, like, man, just keep on running. I don't want to tangle with you. I mean, that was a bigger doe than what I shot, this past week. So that should tell you that there's pretty big animals out there living in these sections, because they're basically untouched by humans, and everything's there set to thrive for these birds. Again, this is an experimental area. Nobody's allowed in there. Nobody's allowed to hunt these animals in there, almost like a sanctuary. And we were the first ones, or some of the few first people to go in there and actually try and take birds out of there. Again, it's run by the government. I think they were genetically modified to be missed by shot. That's my theory, because I even switched from 6 shot to 4. They recommend, I think, 4, 5, and 6 shot, You use one of those. And I was even using 4-shot. I bought some 3-inch 4-shot, some thumpers, man. And I was even sticking those in there and trying to shoot one of these birds down. It was impossible. I even had one, we kind of split up, like they walked on the other side of I call it the hellhole, you know what I'm saying, on the other side of that thing, to try and see what they can kind of kick up. And I walked around this other side, you know what I'm saying? So we were all in a line there, but we were just separated a little bit by the pond. And I had a shot at a bird. And I'm telling you, man, I don't know how I missed that bird. I shot in front of it, and it seemed like when I shot in front of it, he just went the other way. And it was just like that. And then we tried to go and kick him up. But I had some advice from my brother's boss. And he said these birds can, I guess, feel the vibration on the ground when things are moving. And it's only an absolute necessary flight if they can't get away on the ground. They have to go up in the air. A lot of people use dogs, and I think that's why they use dogs, to get them to stop running on the ground and to push them up in the air. That's my theory. If you know more about this, throw that. Constructive criticism is always welcomed here on the channel. Again, this is my first time doing it. These guys have a little bit more experience on hunting different birds, not so much pheasant, but different birds, and knows the reaction. But I'm telling you, shooting into 40-mile-an-hour winds is not fun. It's just not fun. And it was just such a struggle. Again, I think the takeaways from this is, you know, what an experience, first of all, to get to go on this hunt. I didn't win it, but I was allowed to go. And no one's ever hunted this property. Great experience. You know, we're the only ones to hunt this property for hours. Another great experience. And then it's pheasant. And pheasant's good. I've had it before. I'm down to eat pheasant. There's a lot of good recipes I have in this book over there. And I was hoping to use it. What a great experience to do something I've never done before, to try it and see if I liked it. Just like I said in the beginning of the video. You know, they set a bunch of food out there when you're a little kid and you eat portions of it to see what you like. And I really liked this experience. The poor factors to it is this property was not maintained. And, you know, I'm not trying to really harp on the DNR or these people that are trying this experiment here, but you have to manicure that place. I mean, if you want people to take birds, and you start taking birds and they want to look at these birds, they want to analyze these birds, or whatever they want to do for their research, you're going to have to make it a tad bit easier to navigate. You're just going to have to. You cannot walk through that stuff. I mean, even if you put a dog in there and had a dog try and run that spot, man, you'd have a chance to have your dog hurt in some of these spots. Or you're going to have to drag him out of a mud pit. And he's going to be absolutely filthy for the rest of the day. Because I'm going to tell you, navigating some of these portions of that property, I quit doing it. These guys, they were really jacked up to do it. And, you know, I give them kudos, man. They don't give up. They don't give up easy. You know, me, I was like, man, my body is starting, it's not what it used to be. I'll tell you that right now. I feel the oldness, okay, folks? I admit it. I feel the oldness. My body's not what it used to be, just due to things in life that had happened to me. But just the sheer mentality that I had, you know, at one point I just said, forget it. You know, I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna build up energy, and then I'm gonna go back and hit it. You know, I'm really gonna go back and go into spots and try and push birds, at least for these guys. You know, since I'm being a poor shot, I'm gonna try and be the bird dog and push stuff to these guys. And it was just so hard to navigate that terrain. I'm telling you, at one point, Sean went down this little gully, man, and this is all I could see, you know, from here up. And I'm like, dude, you better get out of there. I'm like, your dad almost lost his boots back there. Don't know what's going to be down in this gully. So he's like, you're right. So I waited for him. We got up out of there. I'm telling you, I think that was one of, if not the most biggest drawbacks of that place was the environment that they created. Looks to be cool. It looks to be salvageable for these birds to live in and maybe, be prosperous. But if you want people to go in there and you want to look at these birds, you're going to have to make shooting lanes. You're going to have to tone down the grasses. I mean, you can't walk, like I walked through this one section, and again, there's trees all around me, like little baby trees all around me, and they're like 6 foot tall. Okay, so it's like, how am I supposed to aim at these birds? And if I hit these trees, again, I'm going to be losing some shot. I think that's maybe another possibility that was going on. And we were in these tall grasses, and, they come up over the grasses, you shoot, and then, some of your shot gets caught in these trees and whatnot, and things like that happen. That was just really disappointing. And it was grueling. I'm telling you, it was really grueling. If it wasn't the wind cutting through you, then you had the cold, and then you had the environment that these birds were living in. It looks good. It looks like these birds can survive, but especially because it was like the windshield was 12 degrees. It felt like it was 12 degrees out there, and they were flying. They were surviving. We didn't see anything unnatural. You know what I'm saying? Maybe the grasses aren't supposed to be there. Maybe that's like, wherever pheasant is really popular, that's the kind of environment that they tried to instill in there. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not a government researcher, but I think they were genetically modified to be missed. They weren't supposed to be harvested. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, like the song says. But what an exhilarating experience. Again, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I would just like a better environment. I could probably deal with the coldness and some of the terrain that was going on there. But again, shooting in 40-mile-an-hour winds is tough, especially, shooting at birds that are just getting up into this wind and just taking off. And I'm telling you, it's like a kite. Like when you get a kite on a string and it's a real windy day and you put it up there and it kind of zips that line. That's how these birds were. Once they got up into that wind, if you didn't shoot them on the first shot or, hurry up and hit them on the next shot, it was game over. And I think one more drawback before we leave here. I think one of the things is that all of us were using some type of over and under. We only had 2 shots apiece. And I think, in hindsight, if I could go back in time, if I could do that, I would have took, I don't care, the semi-auto shotgun, the 1400 I have in there. I'd take that. It'd give me another opportunity besides 2 shots to try and take a bird because of the wind. I'm telling you, shooting into the wind or trying to go with the wind was pretty tough, especially when the birds took off. And it was just, there's some birds that, I pulled up and like, they're gone, man. It's like, I'm not going to waste the ammunition. It's an impossible shot as soon as they got up in the wind. So there's pros and there was cons to it. And it was a great experience. I'm grateful that Sean, the researcher's dad, chose to take me with him on this journey. It's something I will never forget. Even though, sometimes, even though you don't accomplish the goal of hunting, it's about the experience. And especially for me, because this is the first time I've ever done this. So it was an exhilarating experience. Could have been better, yes, if we shot some of these birds. I'm telling you, there's one that I seen. I would say that's like a 3-pound bird. It was a pretty big bird, bigger than some of the ones that I've watched on social media in some of the videos that I watched. So flourishing birds is a good sign. Whether they get through the harsh weather is another. But I'm very grateful to go on this hunt. He's kind of a lucky guy. He gets a lot of draws here recently. Me, I haven't gotten picked yet for anything because the next things that I want to do, I want to do goose hunting, and of course I want to do duck hunting. I want to do that, and then do quail and dove. But here recently, as we were going down there, Sean's dad was talking about, you know, quail is talking about being on some kind of endangered species list. That's something else we'll have to look into in the future, and you won't be able to hunt those birds anymore. So I don't know. They could explain it a lot more, but that's stuff I would like to do before time is up. We only have so much, and it's limited. And taking these experiences and seeing what it takes is pretty cool, in my opinion. I'm really proud I was able to whip this fat body through some of this environment. Did it get hard? Yeah, man. I mean, walking through that door, that was a welcome sight. Seeing my chair, that was a welcome sight. And I'm telling you, waking up this morning, going to work, that wasn't a welcome sight because I had to move around a lot. But in all, it was a great experience. You know, hopefully, you know, in the future, that these birds can survive and they can find some habitat to live in to be a part of the ecosystem. You know, these birds aren't really native here, so having them go through the harsh winter, that's going to be the real challenge for these birds. And again, if they can't make it through there, which it looks good, but if they can't, I don't wish to see my tax dollars, or, you know, when I buy my deer tags or my turkey tag, I wouldn't like to see that money go to it and just be flushed down the toilet, so to speak. I'd like to put it towards different research or a different kind of experiment. If it ain't going to work, it ain't going to work. So hopefully the feedback that we gave these scientists in our guinea pig adventure will help them determine whether this is a good idea or it's a lost cause. But again, I was really honored to do this. I'm glad I was able to experience this. I really understand about pheasant hunting to a certain extent at this point, and this is just the first time I've ever done it. Again, I've seen different videos on the internet where the environments these guys were hunting birds in were not the environment that we encountered. And again, one more quick thing. Around here, there's things called put and takes. These guys grab these birds out of the cages and they throw them out there in the field, and you go over there, they put them out there, and you take them. You know what I'm saying? And you shoot them out. This wasn't a put and take. This was like, these birds live out there, nobody disturbs them. They're just going to have to multiply and figure a way out. You know, life finds a way kind of thing, you know, like Jurassic Park. And it looked pretty good. There was a lot of birds out there. Unfortunately, we didn't get an opportunity. And when we did get an opportunity, they were genetically modified to not be hit with shot. And again, I'm sticking to that story. So it was a great experience, fun times. If you have the opportunity to go do it, I highly recommend it. Especially if you're a hunter. It's a different animal. You know what I'm saying? You know, they say it's a different kind of beast. Well, it is, man. It's a different kind of experience, and it's kind of relaxing. You know, it's kind of relaxing walking through there, sort of like sitting in your tree stand, but this time you get to stroll around. You know, in deer season, you got to sit quiet, you got to be patient. This, you just stroll around there, and you know, they go up there, and you get an opportunity. So it was cool. I hope you guys aren't too sad on these videos. I mean, again, I couldn't film much there. All you hear was a wind tunnel. And who wants to listen to a bunch of wind hitting the camera? I don't. And I know you guys probably don't either. So again, I'd like to thank Sean, the researcher, and his dad. You know, Sean for driving, his dad for being a lucky guy and winning this trip, and then taking me along for the ride. With all that being said, I'd like to thank my old and my new subscribers and just the people that zip through. I greatly do appreciate it. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Just not for me, but everybody that you watch on your social media platforms. Like always, guys, we'll catch you on the next one.